so I'm going to turn it over to Anna to tell you about it.
Thank you, Angie and Mark, for allowing me to be here today to host. So good evening. Thank you for joining us today and to learn a little bit about Micato. I know your time is valuable and we really appreciate you being with us today. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about Africa and India, which are our destination. So with 50 years of experience under our belt, I'm quite sure people recognize that we're not newbies in the business. However, we're less known in India, and that's part of our team in India. For the past 26 years, Micato India has been handling arrangements for cruise lines like Crystal and Silver Sea and Seabourn. And after nearly 3 decades of handling ad hoc business in India, we now have a brochure with guaranteed departures. So if anybody's looking to do India, we have some brochures on the table. These trips visit the country's most popular sites. They take in spiritual experiences. This is Varanasi. And they spend time in jaw-dropping royal palaces. And of course, we see the famed tigers. In addition, we offer extensions to off the beaten path, such as the Kerala backwaters. And you can also do a spa retreat in Ananda. We also can take you to the Himalayan country of Bhutan. And you might ask, why India? What makes India such an enchanting destination? India truly stimulates all of one's senses like no place I know. The visual stimulation of its magnificent palaces, impressive forts, stunning architecture, and women in their colorful saris. And all of the vibrant decorations that line the streets and shops. Your sense of sounds will be enchanted as you hear the sitar music that fills the air, the men playing flutes in the streets, and the sounds of drums that accompanies every celebration. Your sense of smell comes alive when you smell the fragrant spices that fill the markets, and marigolds and flowers that seem to be ever present. And your taste buds will be stimulated as you drink a mango lassi while walking down the street. And of course, the body will know it is in India as it relaxes while indulging in an Ayurvedic massage. I love this quote by Mark Twain. "This is indeed India, the land of dreams and romance, the one land that all men desire to see, and having seen once by even a glimpse, would not give that glimpse for the shows of all of the rest of the globe combined." I realize that if you've not visited India, it might be overwhelming. So I'm going to tell you some of the basic facts. Let's start with the weather. Unlike Africa, India is seasonal. The best time to visit is between mid-September and April. The balance of the year is usually hot, and we have the monsoons. Visas. Visas are required, and you can apply for them electronically, and you usually get them within 4 or 5 days. People often talk about the food. They're concerned about all the Indian food they're going to eat for 2 weeks. This is usually not a problem. You can enjoy some of India's wonderful cuisine, as well as the Western and continental dining. There's a tremendous variety of many available choices. How much time do you need in India? Usually most people will go to India for 10 nights, but I would certainly recommend 16 or 17 nights for the best experience. And we find travelers will return several times because India is so vastly different. I'd like to briefly say goodbye to my ancestral home for now and wing across to the Indian Ocean to my home in East Africa. I grew up in Kenya, where my parents were constantly entertaining friends, relatives, and eventually guests for as long as I can remember. And I was always messy, so my room had piles of clothes, and I would say to my mother, "Are they Americans tonight?" And she'd say, "Yes." And I'd say, "Do you think you could tell them I lost my key to my room?" She, of course, loved it when we had guests because I had to tidy my room up. It always struck me that traveling on a safari is quite a bit different than touring India, or traveling the rest of the world. So what I'd like to do is talk about a typical day on safari. I'm going to show slides on Kenya and Tanzania, but the experiences are very similar in Southern Africa or Botswana or Tanzania. So your day begins with a voice outside your tent saying jumbo, which means hello, or greetings in Swahili. And your butler comes in with coffee and tea and croissants and cookies, if it's me. Cookies and hot chocolate.
Well.
They do. And then you set off on your safari. The best time to see the animals is usually first thing in the morning and late in the afternoon. And early in the morning, they get the dew from the leaves and the grass. So you'll spend a few hours tracking the game. You'll see tremendous variety of animals. You'll view some in herds, which can be a great deal of fun because they're very dynamic. And some will be loners. And midway through the game drive, you will stop for coffee. And then we continue on our game drive to our camp for breakfast, or perhaps it'll be in the bush. And after breakfast, we have a few hours to enjoy the lodge, sit by the pool, go horseback riding, maybe a little ride on a mountain bike, or even a bushwalk. And then it's time for lunch. There's never a shortage of food on safari. And after lunch, well, if you have me with you, I start at the dessert section and work backwards. They have wonderful English stodgy desserts, so that's my weakness. And then after lunch, you can, again, sit by the pool, take a nap, take a wonderful massage. And then at about 3:30, it's tea time. So it's very much like a cruise. You're constantly eating, and you will gain at least 5 pounds. So now you're going out for your afternoon game drive, and you might want to explore different species altogether, or go back and visit some groups that you enjoyed earlier. About halfway through your game drive, you will stop for sundowners. And then you will continue on your game drive, and it's probably around dusk right now, so your driver might put on the spotlights to see the nocturnal animals. And we return back to the camp for dinner. Most camps like to rotate the venue in the evening. This is actually a boma, which means a gathering place. So one night you might be dining in a boma, or by the pool, or maybe in the main dining room. And a comment about the food, it is amazing. I think, like I said, you will definitely gain at least 5 pounds. So after dinner, you can enjoy a nightcap, sit by the fire, enjoy the stories. Everybody can talk about their adventures around the fire. So most people turn in early. You've been up since 6:30 in the morning. Personally, this is my favorite time when you're sitting by the fireplace, because you hear absolutely nothing. There are no sirens, there are no lights, there's no disco, there's no TV, and all you hear is the animal sounds. So you could hear a lion roaring 10 miles away, and he sounds like he's right next door. So it really is a pleasant time, and like I said, my favorite time on safari. Like India, Africa can be a bit overwhelming, so I'd like to go over some of the most commonly questions that I get asked. People always ask, when is the best time to go on safari? Fortunately for us, Africa is a big continent, so large that the US, China, India, and Western Europe fits within our borders. So that means at any time of year, you can visit Africa, because there's some place in Africa the weather is just great. The best time to go. Kenya and Tanzania is year-round, except for April, when we have the rains. South Africa is year-round, and Botswana primarily between April and September. And generally, we say you want to avoid the rainy season, because when it rains, there's a lot of excess water, and so the animals don't need to come to the rivers or the lakes or the watering holes, so you've got to spend a lot of time driving around to look for them. So it's not hot. When I first came to the US, I found that people assumed that the weather in Africa would be extremely hot. And it surprised me, because Kenya is like the land of eternal spring. East Africa's on the equator, and so at the coast or the beach, it's hot, but inland where the safaris take place, it's very comfortable. There's very little humidity. Early mornings and the evenings, it's in the 50s and 60s. During the day, it's the 70s and 80s. So most times you need a fleece, or you need to layer, certainly when you go out in the morning and in the evening. So it's very pleasant. In fact, people are generally surprised at how cool it is, and you can see they're wearing fleeces and usually scarves to keep their necks warm. But by 9 a.m. it's in the 70s and it is gorgeous. So bugs, I was just having a conversation about bugs with a couple in the back of the room who look like they're ready to go on safari anyway. They're all decked out.
I'm always ready.
The altitude's pretty high, so in general, you don't need bugs, but we tell everybody to take bug spray because it's just peace of mind, and you'll be surprised that most people won't even use it. People talk about snakes, and for years, my family have always said, you know, we'll give you $1,000 if you see a snake, and to date, I've not parted with that yet. Shots. Everybody thinks you need lots of shots, and that's not true. The only injection you really need is yellow fever, and that's if you're going to go to Tanzania. Yellow fever is valid for 10 years, and many countries require it, so most times you already have it. The only thing you need is malaria pills, and that's what the CDC recommends. And if you don't want to take the malaria pills, then we do have other non-malaria areas where we can take you on safari. So people are often not sure if they want East Africa or Southern Africa. If your focus is to see animals and the herds of animals, then you want to go to Kenya and Tanzania. That's really where you're going to see the herds of animals. And this is what most people think when they have an image of Africa and the African bush. This is the home of the classic tented safari camp, and where the movie Out of Africa was filmed in Kenya. And actually it was filmed in April during the rainy season because we couldn't find accommodation for them any other time of the year. So they had to film in April.
That's interesting.
This is one of the tented camps that we use. As you can see, not too shabby. If you're interested in animals but want a varied experience, then I would recommend South Africa. Typically, you will visit Cape Town, which is truly magnificent. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. In Southern Africa, you can explore the stunning countryside, the beautiful winelands, and you can even go whale watching. Most people like to spend 3 to 6 nights viewing animals, and you can also incorporate a visit to the Victoria Falls. If you're more of an experienced safari hand and have done safaris in East Africa and in South Africa, then you might want to visit Botswana, where the camps are smaller and more specialty game exists without the big herds, like the wild dog. The Okavango Delta is an extremely game-rich area of Botswana, and when the delta floods, you go game viewing in dugout canoes or even by helicopter. Now that you have some of the basics of traveling to India, I'd like to share with you the different ways you can experience a trip with Micato. We offer 3 ways to safari or visit India. The first is on a customized or bespoke safari. And this is the height of luxury because we're customizing it for you. And our team of safari experts, along with the help of your advisor at Wallace Pearson, will craft a journey specific to your desires. And this might include private charters or longer stays at individual camps. Who would think that's a tented camp? Or places off the beaten path, like Lake Turkana. The second way is on our brochure program, which we call our Classic Safari or Classic Indian Safari. These are scheduled departures that are in our brochure, and because they're frequent departures, our groups are never large. Usually there are about 12 people, 6 to 12 people in every departure. So you can pick a scheduled departure and make it private for your family for a small supplement. And it's a lot cheaper than a bespoke safari. So now that you know the difference and the different ways to travel with Micato, I'd like to tell you what sets us apart from some of our competitors that offer trips to Africa and India. We feel we have the very best safari directors that have worked for us. Many have worked for us for 10, 15, 20, 30, and even 40 years. My parents have owned the company, started the company over 50 years ago, and many of our employees were right there with them when they started. In East Africa, even our bespoke or FIT safaris have a safari director that accompanies you throughout your trip. So from the moment you arrive to the moment you end, you have somebody with you at all times. And the difference between our safari directors and most others, they only work for our company. They don't freelance. We've got enough work to keep them busy all year, and so they just work for our company. In India, it's the same. Our guides are with you every step of the way. And I love this quote from Becca Hensley about our guides in India. Our Micato travel director was a miracle worker with a singular ability to follow one magic trip with the next. There is no tip-in ever. Even the traditional end of trip gratuities for the drivers and the guides are all included. That makes it really easy for everybody. You don't have to worry about the currency and the rate of exchange. We wanted to remove even the slightest anxiety from the travel experience. So we instituted this no tip-in policy a couple years ago, and it's been really, really popular. All of our departures are guaranteed. As you know, I'm hoping no one has ever had this happen to them. One of the worst things that can happen when booking a tour is when the tour company cancels due to insufficient bookings. This has never happened with Micato. Every departure is guaranteed. And one of the main advantages of booking, with us having our departures all guaranteed, you can book your airline seats well in advance and secure those hard to get frequent flyer upgrade seats, because you know we will never cancel. You're traveling with a local company, and everyone wants to immerse themselves in local culture these days. Africa is our home, and India is our ancestral home. As local companies, we employ local people, and we contribute to local economies. We have a very large team within our destination. These are our concierge girls. They're there for you 24/7, and they're there to help you with whatever it is you need. If you bought that 7-foot giraffe and you want to ship it back home, they will help you ship it. Or you've forgotten your prescription, or you've lost your glasses, they will help you get that and have it sent on to wherever you are. And likewise in India, our girls over there also help you. In addition, my parents, Felix and Jane, are involved in the day-to-day operation, and they meet every guest who visits Kenya. Like Angie said, when you're in Kenya, you go to my parents' house for dinner. It's always wonderful to go to a local's home. I love it, no matter where I am and what state I'm in, what country. It's great to see how people live, and like you had the story about my messy room. So people always want to see my messy room, which it's very neat today since I don't live at home. So Micato Safaris was built on the reputation and hospitality of my family and our extended family and the Pinto family. And in India, the Hyder Ali family who runs Micato India is no different. Lisa and her brother Michael are a brother-sister team. Their father actually started our company for us in India about 29 years ago. And like my parents, their hospitality is in their DNA. And they're available for you day or night, should the need arise. Micato uses only the finest vehicles. And here's one of our vehicles. Of course, I'm just kidding. So we have our own fleet of vehicles. In Africa, we have customized our vehicles to include seat belts and cup holders, a safari library, binoculars, snacks, and your favorite beverages. In India, we also use the finest vehicles, and that is him, one of our guides in India. And needless to say, all of our vehicles are air conditioned, and again, also have beverages and snacks in the vehicles. Dining is a worry-free experience with Micato. All of our trips, whether in Africa or India, include all meals. Like I said, it's very much like a cruise. And this really allows for a hassle-free experience. You don't have to worry about making reservations. On our bespoke safaris, on our FIT and bespoke, when you travel with us in Africa and India, you can eat in any restaurant and order anything you want on the menu. So this is true for such famed restaurants as Nobu, the one and only in Cape Town, or the Test Kitchen. It's truly the hottest restaurant, the hottest table to get in Cape Town, and we have stand-in reservations every single day there for anybody who wants to go. And La Combe in Constancia, in the wine country. And of course, it goes without saying that we will transfer you there and back. So we will put you in a car, and the driver will sit and wait for you, and then sign the check for you, and you can order whatever you want on the menu. And in all our Africa programs, we also include beer and wine and soft drinks. And in India, we offer the flexibility to dine at any restaurant on any of your trips. So if you want to eat at the world-renowned Le Cirque at the Leela Palace, you can. Or the Spice Route, recently voted one of the 10 best restaurants in the world by Condé Nast. Or if you want to just dine in any restaurant, the hippiest restaurant in Delhi, the choice is yours. And remember, we have no restrictions on the menu. Because we don't own camps or lodges or hotels, we are free to use the very best accommodations for you. And I think this is a very important distinction, especially in Africa. We don't have to be one size fits all, and our biggest concern is not putting heads in beds. We can truly pick the very best camp or lodge or palace for you, and we don't use entry room categories either. So this is the Oberoi Ama Villas in Agra. And here you will see at the property, every room has a view of the Taj. With Micato, we only book balcony rooms. And it's so wonderful to be sitting there and being able to view the Taj Mahal from your room rather than look at it from a small little window. So those are the differences when you travel with us and not using the entry-level rooms. This is Oberoi Uday Villas in Udaipur, and that's their pool, and it's very pretty. And then this is the Taj Rambagh Palace, the original home of the royal family of Jaipur, one of my favorite hotels in the world. And they would only spend a couple months there a year. That was their hunting palace. And these are actual palaces and not buildings that have been built to look like one. And some still have a section where the Maharaja resides, and often you'll see him walking through the properties with his dogs. So while in Africa, the accommodations might not be quite as grand, but they're fit in with their environment. And this is little Bumbura in Botswana. And you'll get quite close to the animals. In fact, this elephant looks like he's going to join you for lunch. It hardly seems fair to call this a tent. There are fireplaces and fire pits that make accommodations very cozy. And some of you might enjoy sleeping under the stars in a star bed. And for those of you that prefer to be close to nature, for those of you who prefer not to be so close to nature, we have wonderful lodges such as this newly refurbished Singita Ebony Lodge. And the level of luxury in South Africa winelands is unsurpassed, such as this beautiful room at La Residence. So we've seen a number of you flying in on private aircraft, and we're happy to assist. And for those of you who want to fly private locally, we can charter planes both in Africa and India. And this is kind of what some of the planes look like. And travelers have enjoyed the award-winning services of Micato. Micato continues to win many awards, and I think that's what sets us apart from everybody else. We're very proud to be the only tour company to have ever won the Travel and Leisure #1 World's Best Award 9 times. And this is very special to us because it is a reader's poll. I get the accolades, but it's really my parents and our drivers and our guides and our concierge who are out there with all of you for 2 weeks that really deserve this award. But I'll take the praise anyway. The point of differentiation that we are most proud of is our commitment to philanthropy. For every safari that we sell or you buy, we send a child to school. A child from the age of 6 to 18 will be educated. And we call this our one-for-one commitment. At the end of each week, when we look at sales, we don't call it a sales report. We report on how many children we sent to school that week. So over 29 years ago, Micato and my family established a nonprofit organization called America Share. And it's the mission of America Share to provide an education to single or double orphan children who live in the slums of Nairobi. So I've talked about our travel and leisure win, but we're also extremely proud to have won 5 Condé Nast World Saver Awards. And Condé Nast recognizes companies who are good global citizens and have been creative about protecting, conserving, and supporting natural environments and local communities. Micato won in 2 categories: the Education Initiative for our efforts to get children into schools in Kenya, and we won in the Doing It All Right category, being the highest rated tour operator in every category judged overall. We won these awards in part because of our one-for-one commitment. As I just mentioned, for every safari sold, Micato sends an African child to school. And this is a child who would normally stay home due to extreme poverty. One of the most gratifying things about America Share is that 100% of the donation goes to the children. All the administrative costs are paid for by Micato. And guests have the opportunity to visit the heart of our operation, Harambee Center, which is a multi-use facility in Nairobi's Nakuru slum, which is the 2nd largest slum in Nairobi. These buildings house women's group, a preschool, a library, and even provides clean water, which was the first in the slum. It is also the base for Huru International, a second non-profit founded by America Share's executive director. Huru manufactures reusable sanitary napkins along with Johnson & Johnson, who helped us perfect it. And we distribute these kits to young women. Most girls in Kenya can't afford sanitary pads, and so they would miss school a week, a month, and ended up dropping out of school. So by giving girls these Huru kits, we're helping to keep them in school and give them a chance of an education. So far, we've distributed over 100,000 Huru kits. And Elton John actually is one of our biggest contributors to Huru. So at the end of most of our safaris, you can spend half a day if you wish, visiting the people and the children and seeing the good work that takes place in Harambee Center. And it really is a joyful experience, and it is not depressing at all. They love seeing the Micato vehicles come through. In fact, we're the only company that can go through Nakuru, because they know that your funds are going back to them. So they welcome you and they love having you come through, and the children all come up to meet you and say hello and want to sing for you. And most times this marks as the highlight of most people's safari. So while safaris may be our profession, America Share and these children are our passion. There are millions of children in Africa abandoned or orphaned as a result of the AIDS pandemic, and this is our way of making a difference. The education of orphaned and vulnerable children is also a high priority for our team in India, and we work closely with village schools in the town of Samod, which is outside of Jaipur. Micato India works continually to improve the conditions for the children of the school by installing ceiling fans, buying computers, furniture, cricket equipment, and supplies. As we grow our programs in India, we look forward to expanding our philanthropic endeavors to match what we do in Africa. So it looks like I'm running out of time. So in closing, when you travel with Micato Safaris, you will see amazing wildlife, enjoy extraordinary experiences, beautiful scenery, meet interesting people, and remember, when you travel with Micato, you may very well save a life. So thank you so much. With that, I hope we will see you in one of our destinations. Thank you so much again for joining us tonight.